It's January 11th, 2004. We're in Philadelphia for an overtime postseason showdown between the hometown Eagles and visiting Green Bay Packers. Tied at 17, a clean kick would send Philly to their third straight conference championship. But it's honestly astonishing that we're even here in OT. This game has been a wild ride. To better appreciate the madness that led us here, we gotta rewind. Green Bay absolutely needs Philly to miss this kick to stay alive. Otherwise, it'll be a gut-punching ending to what's been a roller coaster of a game within a roller coaster of a few seasons for this franchise. The Packers seemed dynasty-bound in the late 90s after back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, but then things kinda went to shit. Last year's postseason loss especially stung. Experts believed it was Green Bay's best chance at a deep run since their championship season, until it all came crashing down in a first-round upset against the 6th seed Atlanta Falcons. The loss marked the first time the Packers took a postseason L at home in franchise history, sparking media members to think Green Bay's reign had officially ended, mostly because the captain of the Cheeseheads considered retiring. Before the 2002 season kicked off, three-time MVP gunslinger Brett Favre had longed for a simple life at home of keeping a freshly manicured lawn. Favre wasn't getting any younger, and his play diminished a little over the years, but he was the engine that kept Green Bay going. If Favre played great, the Packers were in the mix. If he was even slightly off or hurt, Green Bay's hopes plummeted. Ultimately, Favre decided against retirement, and as the Packers entered this season, their expectations relied on his play, which looked shaky the first half of this year. Green Bay got off to an up-and-down start where Favre broke his thumb early in the year, playing through pain and racking up turnovers. After a close Week 10 loss at home against Philly, where Favre fumbled 3 times, the wheels appeared to be falling off. That matchup presented an opportunity for Green Bay to cover some ground, but the loss knocked them under 500, and experts believe they had no one to blame but the person staring back at them in the mirror. After another loss a few weeks later against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, Green Bay had to win out to have a remote shot at the postseason, which is exactly what they did. The team caught fire in December, outscoring teams at a ridiculous clip that resembled the offensive production of their title-winning season. Amon Green headed a dangerous rushing attack that kept opposing defenses on their toes, but it was Favre's relentless performance through adversity that kept Green Bay thriving. A day removed from losing his father to a sudden heart attack, Favre tossed 4 TDs in a late-season must-win game to keep Green Bay's playoff hopes alive. Their postseason admission and NFC North title were aided by a wacky ending from the division rival Minnesota Vikings, but Green Bay still deserved a ton of credit for their finish. They took care of business in a thrilling overtime shootout against the Seattle Seahawks in the first round, and although the odds were stacked against them to advance past that, Green Bay entered their matchup against Philly with a ton of confidence. And it showed early on in this matchup. Green Bay jumped out front with a 14-0 lead where Favre looked in complete command of the offense with 2 first-quarter TDs. If it weren't for Amon Green tripping over his teammate at the 1-yard line in the second quarter, the Packers could have entered the half up 2 scores. Philly eventually knotted things up in the fourth quarter, but thanks to Favre hitting some big-time throws and marching his team down the field, Green Bay retook the lead and looked to hold on to the end of regulation. Yet, here they are in overtime, praying for a missed kick. A successful boot could put the Eagles one step closer to the Super Bowl. Like Green Bay, Philly wouldn't be here without their QB leading the way. After being drafted 2nd overall in 1999, Donavan McNabb has proved himself as a star in the league. In just one season, he transformed the Eagles from a bottom-of-the-barrel franchise into a perennial threat in the NFC. But despite a dynamite start to his career, McNabb has been heavily criticized, mostly thanks to the moments where he crumbled under the bright lights. After a strong first half against the St. Louis Rams in the 0-1 Conference Championship, Philly's offense sputtered after the break, leading to their demise. McNabb thrived as a dual threat QB, destroying teams with his arm and legs, but barely ran until the fourth quarter of that matchup. Even worse, with a shot to steal the game late, McNabb threw a costly game-sealing interception. The following season looked as promising as ever, but again ended with disappointment. McNabb looked like a strong MVP candidate in the 2002 season, but sustained an ankle injury late in the year. He luckily returned for the playoffs and led the Eagles to an easy divisional round win over the Falcons. But the following week wasn't as sweet. Philly got crushed by a dominant Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, where McNabb played easily his worst game of the season. Tampa's pressure rattled him all game, affecting his timing and forcing him into poor decisions, where he again tossed a costly game-clinching interception to end the season. McNabb acknowledged he played like shit and knew Philly had a chance at the title only if he played up to his true standards. A thought that journalists agreed with heading into the new year. Philly lost some key pieces in the offseason and were expected to take a step back, but media members believed if the Eagles were to somehow make a postseason run, it would be thanks to the play of McNabb. However, after Philly opened up the year with back-to-back losses, experts were ready to bury their playoff hopes. The Eagles didn't stay dead for long. Behind yet another stellar season from McNabb, Philly drastically turned their season around, finishing 12-4. When they faced off against Green Bay on the road earlier this year, it was the young buck leading his team to victory over the seasoned vet. Media members thought the Eagles' Super Bowl chances took a hit when they lost star running back Brian Westbrook at the end of the season, but as long as McNabb was locked in, the expectation was Philly could make some noise. He outdueled Favre in the regular season, but with more at stake, McNabb had to step up to shed his past postseason shortcomings, which didn't start too hot. In the first quarter, McNabb coughed up the ball while scrambling to avoid pressure, and Favre made him pay with a deep TD the very next play. McNabb finally got his get back later in the second quarter. The Eagles marched down the field on a 6-play, 77-yard drive where McNabb connected on 5 straight passes, finishing with a 7-yard TD toss to get on the board. After giving up 14 points in the first quarter, Philly's defense locked in for the second half, giving their offense opportunities to even the game. Late in the third quarter, McNabb did it all and put the team on its back. He started off the drive flexing his legs with a clean run, scooting by defenders for a first down. 2 plays later, McNabb switched it up, showing off his cannon with a 23-yard strike to LJ Smith. After a mixed bag of plays, McNabb made Green Bay's defense look silly, shaking off pressure in the backfield before getting free and connecting with Todd Pinkston on a 12-yard score to even the game. The dude pulled off moves that seemed impossible on the field.
You may watch football for years and never see a better play by a quarterback than Donavan McNabb.
8 plays, 89 yards, all accounted for by McNabb. Just ridiculous. With a game-tying drive like that, McNabb was on the path of clearing his past playoff hiccups until he got back to his old ways and nearly finished his team later in the fourth quarter. Down 3, Philly needed to convert on short yardage to keep their drive alive, but McNabb got stripped rolling out of the pocket, forcing them to punt. With the ball, Green Bay strolled down the field, working the clock, making Philly burn 2 timeouts. The Packers appeared to go for the kill shot at the Eagles' 41-yard line on 4th and short, but ended up taking a delay of game penalty before punting it off. Starting from their own 20 with 1 timeout and a little over 2 minutes to play, Philly needed to make something shake to have a chance at tying this up. And moving backwards certainly wasn't ideal, as McNabb took an ugly 16-yard sack, plus some incomplete passes mixed in. The Eagles found themselves staring down a long 4th and 26. We've seen McNabb be lethal with his legs, but Philly clearly has to pass, and his options ain't great. The Eagles receivers have hands like feet. none of McNabb's options were remotely close to having a 1,000-yard season. It's why McNabb often took things into his own hands, but someone has to step up. On the play, McNabb dropped back, hung in the pocket, and delivered a ball cleanly down the middle to Freddie Mitchell, who covered just enough ground to pick up the first. Although the announcers thought Philly might have got a favorable spot.
Boy, they got a great spot after that catch by Freddie Mitchell.
Whether the refs gave them a few inches or not, the Packers D allowed Mitchell to shriek freely down the field, giving the Eagles a chance to tie it up. 4th and a mile. It's ridiculous. Playing underneath, just defending off vibes. After a slew of plays, Philly worked the ball to Green Bay's 19-yard line, where they drilled the game-tying kick, sending it to overtime. Both of these squads are driven by the play of their quarterbacks, and now more than ever, one of them needs to will their team to victory. Philly won the toss, so McNabb was up first. And a 3-and-out won't get the job done. Favre was up next. He already has a title under his belt, and as Green Bay took over from their own 32, this could be the path toward another. On first down, the veteran dropped back to avoid pressure and heaved the ball down the field. Yikes. Yep, that's probably the worst time to throw a pick, and with that return, Philly already found themselves around field goal range. After churning away more yards, that brings us here. The fate of the Eagles' future comes down to a clean boot from kicker David Akers. Sure, this is only a 31-yarder, but Akers is still fairly new to this. He's had an unconventional journey up to this point. After an impressive collegiate career, Akers entered the league as an undrafted free agent, getting passed around from team to team, working a variety of jobs before landing with the Eagles in 1999. Philly shipped him off to their NFL Europe team for a stint, but in his limited attempts with the squad stateside, Akers impressed the Eagles with his mighty leg. So much so that when longtime kicker Norm Johnson retired entering the 2000 season, the team turned the starting gig over to Akers. Special teams coordinator John Harbaugh thought Akers took the needed time to learn under Johnson and was more than ready for the job, which Akers proved immediately. Since taking over, Akers has been lights out for the Eagles, making consecutive Pro Bowls and earning first-team All-Pro honors in 2001. He's already climbed the ranks of the NFL's all-time accuracy list for kickers and has 2 career game-winning field goals in overtime under his belt. Although, when called upon tonight, Akers has been a little off. Following a sweet 41-yard scramble by McNabb early in the first quarter, Akers missed a 33-yarder wide left that would have narrowed Green Bay's lead. He buried the 37-yarder to send this game to OT, but with gusting winds on the cold night, nothing is guaranteed. If he misses, Favre will have a chance to atone for his crucial mistake and lead the Packers back to the mountaintop as he approaches retirement. Akers can be the hero tonight, but the Eagles wouldn't be here without McNabb. He's been through his fair share of criticism over the years, but McNabb has had to carry his team to the finish line as Philly is a made kick away from their 3rd straight conference championship game. A kick that comes down to a dude who struggled to make it as a pro, but has transformed into one of the NFL's most elite kickers. It all comes down to this. Welcome to a moment in history.
You can't call back-to-back timeouts.
Akers. The Eagles are going back to the NFC Championship game. 20-17.
Yo, thanks for watching this episode of Rewinder. Just want to take the time to give a special shout out to our top secret agents. Those are the $10 patrons whose names are beautifully displayed on screen right now. You too can get your name up on this screen if you become a $10 patron, which gets you exclusive access to early releases, new episodes of John's series, our new podcast, The Annex, Yorktown Columns, mailbags, and more. We also have a $5 option that comes with some sweet stuff as well. And we'll always still be pumping out fire content right here on YouTube.